welcome everybody. We've got a good show today, watching a few documentaries about God. Who is he? Is he good or bad? Evil and good, this duality, this ain't well, should be a question on everybody's mind considering the current world events. So I'm going to shut up for a minute, play you an intro, and sit back, relax. It's going to be a good one today, as normal.
Let my bed be made, bright field, bright for the woody night shade.
It was a nice day. All the days had been nice. There had been rather more than 7 of them so far, and rain hadn't been invented yet. But the storm clouds gathering east of Eden suggested that the first thunderstorm was on its way, and it was going to be a big one.
It'd be funny if we both got it wrong, eh? If I did the good thing and you did the bad one.
No. Wouldn't be funny at all.
Light of a mage's moon, but it's not by bone, but yet by blade can break the magic.
Give it a like, give it a share, guys. Get us out there a little bit.
It's not my fire, but what's forged in flame can drown the sorrows of a huntsman's pain.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Sneaky little hobbitses.
This young man, he died fair soon by the light of the hunter's moon. 'Twas not by bone, nor yet by blade. Oh, the berries of the woody nightshade. Oh, Father dear, lie heavy safe from the path of the devil made.
Gaslighting is a type of psychological manipulation in which an abuser attempts to gain power and control over another by sowing seeds of self-doubt and confusion, deliberately and systematically feeding false information, intentionally distorting reality, and coercing the victim into constantly questioning themselves. The term originally derived from the 1944 film Gaslight, in which a woman's abusive husband slowly twists and shapes her reality until she believes she must be going insane. In many ways, this parallels the metaphysical plight of the human condition, the constant confusion, contradictions, and confounding nature of this realm. In most religions, including and especially the Abrahamic faiths, God is purported to be omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, wholly loving, benevolent, and perfect in every way. Yet at the same time, this God is the creator of all things, including Satan and every evil that exists. Every single negative, torturous, agonizing, infuriating, terrifying, tragic, disgusting, depraved, and downright evil thing in existence was created, condoned, and codified by this supposedly perfect creator. Every predator, parasite, and psychopath, every disease, death, and natural disaster, every sickness, suffering, and sordid thing under the sun is sanctioned by this wholly loving and benevolent God. How can such a clear contradiction not raise constant suspicion in believers. Arthur Schopenhauer said, "There are two things which make it impossible to believe that this world is the successful work of an all-wise, all-good, and at the same time all-powerful being. Firstly, the misery which abounds in it everywhere, and secondly, the obvious imperfection of its highest product, man, who is a burlesque of what he should be. These things cannot be reconciled with any such belief." If you ask them, they tend to respond that Satan and man are to blame for all the evils of this world, and that the good God only allows evil in the name of freedom. In other words, when you start questioning the abundant abuses and unnecessary evils of this world, God suddenly becomes the great allower rather than the supreme creator. In short, they have been gaslighted into accepting that God simply allows evil, rather than the truth that he created, maintains, and sustains evil. In the face of every evil, every atrocity and tragedy, rather than being omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, this God suddenly becomes impotent, aloof, and invisible. But God is by definition omnipotent, meaning all-powerful, and must be, otherwise would have to be redefined as a demigod. Therefore, this Abrahamic creator is either a gaslighter or a demigod, and cannot be the true traditional monotheistic capital G God. First, the Abrahamic God gaslights believers into thinking Satan is some uncontrollable separate entity responsible for all negativity and evil in the world. In reality, however, since God is by definition omnipotent, all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, and omnipresent, all-pervasive, God must know everything, have power over everything, and exist even within Satan himself. In this sense, the Abrahamic God uses Satan as a scapegoat, and effectively removes himself of blame from every evil and imperfection. He is still wholly good, benevolent, and perfect, you see. It is just that pesky Satan always causing problems. Next, God, through his scapegoat Satan, manifests through a scapegoat serpent in the Garden of Eden, who manipulates Eve into breaking a previous promise she had made with God. Due to this so-called original sin, every human born forever thereafter, until this very day, is said to be sinful and deserving of punishment for thousands of years because of scapegoat Eve's broken promise. Believers of this story start to develop an acute spiritual Stockholm syndrome, causing them to blame themselves and believe that they and all of humanity are lowly sinners, unworthy and fallen, in need of a Savior's redemption. None of this should seem surprising, heretical, or blasphemous, since the Abrahamic God is often portrayed in the Bible as being vengeful, vindictive, arrogant, impudent, insecure, and indecisive. He is shown to be homicidal, filicidal, infanticidal, and genocidal, orders human and animal sacrifices from followers, and drowns nearly everyone alive, hundreds of thousands, for behaving against his bidding. This is the same God that created the predatory food chain, where every living being has to kill and consume the bodies of other living beings in order to survive. He demands adoration, worship, and obedience, while at the same time supposedly allowing for complete freedom. Rather than seeing this insanity for what it is, many have the gall to call this system perfect, and see the cycle of incessant suffering as some beautiful circle of life. As Arthur Schopenhauer said, "This world could not have been the work of an all-loving being, but that of a devil, who had brought creatures into existence in order to delight in the sight of their sufferings." Even New Agers gaslight themselves with similar belief systems, claiming we actually choose everything about our incarnations on Earth, from our parents, friends, and enemies, to all abuses we endure and tragedies we suffer. Similar to children of toxic parents, they tend to justify their abusive upbringings as tough love and learning opportunities, then continue to repeat the poor parenting behaviors themselves. All suffering, negativity, and evil is attributed to God wanting your pain to teach you something, and if bad things keep happening, it's just because you haven't learned your lesson yet. As Howdy Makowski wrote, the standard presentation is that this world was created by a loving God who cares about us. Does that really match your experience of the world and the experiences of those you see around you? How could a loving deity not step in and help, but let all the massive suffering on Earth continue? Perhaps because the Creator, whoever it is, wants the suffering. That is why they are not stepping in. The entire God loves us and me is a big lie that all religions and the New Age are trapped under. They find ways to turn the torture of this world into a wonderful message and learning from light. Do you really think God wants an 8-year-old kid to get beat up, a girl to get raped, or a dog tortured by its owner? Careful examination would reveal that the Demiurge, or Satan, wants that. The idea that God loves us is a key foundation pillar upon which this entire matrix is built. It is such a strong foundation that many people will even get angry and violent if you suggest otherwise. Because if this belief were found to be false, every other connection to this reality would also have to be questioned. Thus, the God loves me belief is one of the hardest nuts to crack.
God loves me! How are you all doing? Welcome. Got a little bit of a different setup tonight. I've got my camera a bit closer. Yeah, so we're going to sort out the microphone. Microphone should be a-okay. Yeah, the level's looking good. We've got 30 people watching already. I always do a show on a bank holiday because I've always got some time spare. So yeah, I like to put on. The weather is. Do you want to know what the weather is where I am? It is white sky with white and grey clouds. Raining, drizzling all day. Yeah, totally natural. I was just talking to someone earlier about. Do you remember the first house arrest back in 2020? Was it mid-March? They locked me down for 7 weeks, and it was Bluebird. Bluebird means, it's a skiing term, blue sky, not one cloud, and it was like that every single day for two months. And why was that? Because there was a reason, why the weather was like that. Don't we know? So, yeah, it's interesting. Welcome, Tony Garrett, Lord Dubsworth, good to see you. OGB, all the regulars, Red Bull Vodka, Nonconformista, good to see you. Black Sheep Researcher, Kirsty C, I'm going to come back to watch. So yeah, it's we're going to get into subjects, and this is I think this question is getting asked a little bit more, and it should be, considering the state of the world, because it ain't looking terribly rosy in the humanitarian side of things, is it? It's a little bit crazy out there. Yeah, so I've got that little photo of Lucifer, and I don't support the current thing. I don't support the current thing, and yeah, it's good. It's totally what we all. It's like, because we don't support the current thing, because we think for ourselves, we use probably a little bit more of our brain, because we maybe clean our water, we filter our water, so we don't drink all the fluoride, and we watch what we eat. And I'll be honest, marijuana is a massive part of being awake. I think it is. They say it activates the pineal gland, etc. So it's interesting. But yeah, we all don't support the current thing, and on a deep psychological level, fundamentally, we are different. And this split that's happened since 2020 is so vast now. I mean, it really is. If you're walking around on the promenade with fish and chips, looking up to, just thinking it's a lovely May day, then you're wired up differently. You're totally wired up differently. You are not like us. It's really interesting. So, yeah.
Come on, don't bullshit me. Bullshit. Bullshit. You said so. It's all bullshit.
So we're going to be looking at, it is right, Arnold Schwarzenegger. His surname, give the show a like, guys, as well, because it really helps the algorithm. Thank you. Arnold Schwarzenegger. I speak German, and it clocked about a few weeks ago. 33 watching. It clocked a few weeks ago. His surname, his family name. London McLovin, welcome. I must email you back, mate. Sail Away, welcome. Also, Matthew Reynolds, welcome. Also, so yeah, I mean, his surname, Schwarzenegger's surname, right? Schwartz is black. Negger is the same as the N word. That's similar to the N word in British. Work it out for yourselves. Doesn't mean black. It means black N word. That's what it means. And that's what it means. So yeah, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, such a character, isn't he? He's such a character. So we're going to be looking at some allegedly Dave's talks. Really good one, actually. We've got, and what else have we got? We'll just sort of quick out here. Questions for the creator. Let's run this VT now, and then we'll get into. We're going to be looking at another one of allegedly Dave's videos, the Return of the Nephilim. And this is way before I did mine. I wasn't aware he did it as well, but it's really, really interesting. Very similar thoughts to my version of it as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We've got a few documentaries to watch. It's going to be a bit of a long one today. So just chill out, sit back, relax, and we will begin with one more video. Questions for the creator. This is from Eric Dubay. We'll also be looking at a bit of Mark Devlin as well, and his opinion on God, etc.
This planet is ours, witch.
Imagine you were the supreme creator, designing and constructing your own world, complete with beautiful beaches, majestic mountains, and wondrous woodlands. Imagine creating and populating your bright new world with a menagerie of cute, cuddly animals and happy, loving people to experience and enjoy your creation. Envision the kind of paradise you could and would create if you were the omnipotent creator. Conjure the blissful emotions you would feel existing in such a heaven of your own creation, and imagine the peace of mind such a positive place could engender in all for eternity. Now, imagine looking down on your perfect paradisical realm and deciding to introduce a variety of new negative situations, systems, and species into the mix, first and foremost being death. Rather than immortal beings that live forever in a perfected state, everything instead becomes subject to entropy. All the beautiful plants, cuddly animals, and happy people you created now become subject to degeneration, suffering, aging, disease, and death. The only way to temporarily avoid the effects of these new negative systems is through the introduction of another: consumption. In order to extend their lives, to escape the pain of disease and deterioration, and to momentarily end the suffering of their insatiable hunger, all living beings in creation must now kill and eat the life out of other living beings simply to survive. The entirety of existence becomes inherently predatory and selfish, where it was once peaceful and compassionate. Next, imagine adding even more horrors to your new creation. Imagine populating it with a variety of blood-sucking, life-destroying parasites like leeches, lice, ticks, and fleas to attach themselves to your cute, cuddly creations, causing them immense pain and suffering as they leech the life from them. Imagine creating cold, calculating carnivores to stalk and slay your innocent, defenseless herbivores. Imagine adding a multitude of new natural disasters to constantly concern and kill your creations, from famines and floods, to tornadoes and tsunamis, to devastating earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Imagine introducing scarcity, depravity, degeneracy, degradation, pollution, pestilence, and pain into a realm that need not have any such things. Then imagine looking down on those you created, watching them suffering from sickness, dying from diseases, generation upon generation of people pleading on their knees, praying for God to save them from their plight. They are praying to the same God who created their plight, and asking to save them from it. The same God they are praying to for help is the one who caused them to need to pray for help. The same God that cured their cancer is the one who gave them cancer in the first place. If you truly loved and wanted the best for your creations, is this how our world would be set up? What kind of bias, bipolar, spiritual Stockholm syndrome possesses people to see this scenario as sane? Howdy Makowski wrote, "No one is asking who is the director of this force of destiny, and who is the beneficiary of this setup. I have come to see that it is not a benevolent force, as religion, New Age, Advaita, or shamanism all suggest, but a malevolent force, like the Cathars and Gnostics suggest. It does not take much to see that a realm full of suffering and anguish would not help a loving creator. It helps a malevolent force. A good way to keep people from seeing this is to present the loving creator as a non-logical answer for why so many terrible things happen. A loving deity makes you suffer to improve you, torture you to make you better, as Richard Rose would say it."
This is going to be very controversial today, this episode. It's going to be very, 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 very controversial. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Not like so controversial, but, always have an open mind. It's like, same with like this clip. It's very interesting, right? This clip here, I'm going to play it out.
If people are insulting you, you learn to not let it attack or even move your ego. In the beginning it's hard, but why would you ever let somebody else take away your life quality just by insulting you?
Don't react. You don't react. If you don't react, I was talking to this old guy a while ago, a month ago, a geologist, and he was full of knowledge, and he was saying, don't react to situations. Don't react when someone doesn't go your way, etc. You don't give it your reaction. You don't give it your energy. By that, you're not feeding into the Lush, which we're going to be talking about as well. We're going to be talking about God, Lush, Lucifer, Janus. Big shout out to Paul from Black Sheep Researcher. It's going to be good today. We've got a lot of subjects to be talking about, and it's Bank Holiday Monday. Yeah, I wonder, Lord Doomsworth, I wonder what thong Paul's got on today. Oh, there he is, look. We're just speaking about thongs, and Paul pops in the chat. You must have a special one on today, because it's Bank Holiday Monday. Yeah. Anyway. No, but honestly, don't react. I'm just reading the chat. Audrey B says sometimes it's hard. It is hard not to react. I gave a reaction. The only time I've reacted in a long time was when the company I worked for in London, I was working 12-hour shifts a while ago, and they didn't pay me on a Friday, and I needed that money that day because I was buying a car, and it did the same thing the next week as well. And it's funny, when holding back money, that's an instant that got me, So yeah, it's interesting. It can be hard not to react. Welcome, Paul. How you doing, mate? It can be hard not to react, but I think it's important to breathe. Always, I was talking about discipline a while ago, about having discipline, and it instills more discipline. And how it does that is by practice breathing one day, you repeat it, and the more you repeat it, the more you're reprogramming your conscious mind to breathe more. Parasites hate it as well because they're anaerobic, they don't like oxygen. So it's very interesting. We'll continue with this questions for the creator from Eric Dubay.
People are given traumatic misfortunes. Then they come to believe those were part of a loving God's plan. Then they pray to the very same God that just traumatized them, asking to end their suffering. If there really was a happy, loving deity in charge of this place, it could, of course, be a much more peaceful experience. However, we live in a physical and energetic slaughterhouse. You are living, in many ways, as a computer game character or semi-programmed robot in a very insane system. How many worms have just died in the last 5 seconds to feed all the birds? How many mice died to feed all the cats? What set up such an insane and sick system? This world is a feeding frenzy. Think of how many insects are killed every day to feed the world's fish. How many fish are killed every day to feed the world's birds? How many birds are killed every day to feed the world's humans? And how many humans are killed every day to feed lions, tigers, bears, crocodiles, sharks, vultures, wolves, and hyenas? Why was such a systemic cycle of suffering put into place here? Is that really necessary? Is that really what a loving, benevolent, compassionate creator would design? What truly good, ultimate purpose could such incessant suffering serve? How many children have to be born with torturous terminal illnesses? How many have to die in terrible natural disasters? What is the underlying reason for all these tragedies? Why did the Creator have to include such perpetual torments in this reality? Why have we, the created ones, been left alone in the dark with regards to ultimate answers? Why can't we remember things like the creation of the world, pre-birth experiences, or have true, deep, fundamental understanding of reality? Why do we find ourselves with so little knowledge, power, and agency in this complete mystery of a life, devoid of any attainable objectivity? Many people actually believe they know the answers to all these questions. They will claim this life is a school or a test made to fortify and develop our spiritual selves, a chance to refine our karma, or to renounce and repent for our sins, a filter to separate the wheat from the chaff. But if so, what is the point of that whole process? An omnipotent creator could create perfect beings in a perfect realm just as easily as flawed beings in a fallen realm. So why opt for the latter? As Angeliki and Agnostou wrote, in other words, souls started off as pure spiritual entities and are incarnated to matter. Why? To return home to where they start from, pure again? And having gained what? Virtual life experiences? Useless to the spiritual plane.
This is it, right? Because like this mind wipe thing, right? This mind wipe. I think my mic is sounding just right tonight. Let me know if my mic's okay. I want my mic quite a bit louder than the music today, because the music in the last episode, apologies to everybody, especially at the start, it was terrible. And yeah. So anyway, the mic is looking okay on the levels. So yeah, I mean, you know, that you're talking about the mind wipe, and like that Sanskrit photo of like the photo of what was it, the rebirth. Says it's Samsara, I think, that image. I probably got it somewhere, I'll drag it up later. So yeah, it's very interesting, all this the way our minds seem to be right. We are here, and we don't know hardly anything about metaphysics or the metaphysical world, spirituality, this world that we can't see. And we're here where our history doesn't go back that long, and even the history that does go back, it can't be, you can't trust it. You can't trust it. So we're here, and we're quite lost, I think, as a civilization where we are right now. And it's like, when did this? I think this realm has been hijacked. It was hijacked quite a long time ago, and we're getting to the pinnacle. We're getting to the pinnacle now of the evilness, and it's really interesting where we're going with it.
What would your inner Stephen be telling you?
I wonder what inner Stephen. What would your inner Stephen tell you? It's like the little guy on the shoulder. Is that the inner Stephen? The inner Stephen, the inner Satan on your shoulder. These voices. I talked to Mark Pajeski about it. the voices in your head. And I'm not talking about crazy, like, oh, go kill this guy and shit like that. I'm just talking about the conversations that you have in your head. And it's always interesting. It's always interesting to me. I've got my heater on the boat. It's the 6th of May today, 2024, and I've got my heater on. It's cold. I go back to that first lockdown. The first lockdown when it was like 2 months of blue sky. Such a coincidence, wasn't it? Such a coincidence. Yeah. Nobody's let me know if my mic's okay, so I'm guessing my mic should be okay. Anyway, Paul says in the chat, we do not help ourselves. No, we don't. And it's, I'm just reading some of the chat here. Yeah, it's really interesting. Really good chat the other night as well, guys. I really do appreciate the people who watch my channel. It's brilliant. Everybody's full of energy. Great. So don't, always feel free to ask questions in the chat and shit like that. So yeah, give it a like, guys, as well. I'm going to keep saying that because it does trigger people to actually like the show, and then I get more views. Because do we trust the views that we're reading about? I don't know. Right, so I think now there's some lovely Japanese music playing in the background. I think we've got quite a few things to watch today. We've got an episode from Paul with Janice. We're going to watch that a bit later. We've got a chat between Mark Devlin and who I've met twice. And they say you shouldn't meet your heroes. And I would agree with that in the case of Mark Devlin. That's all I'm saying about that. So yeah. Let's start with, I think, that. And we've also got, what else have we got to watch? We've got some Brian Cox, Wonders of the Solar System, and just what this science narrative, like speed of science, all this crap. Yeah. Right, yeah, I'm just checking this. Right, cool. Right, let's do it then. Yeah, let's start off with Mark Devlin, chat with Mark Devlin, and allegedly Dave. It's very good. Here we go.
So the main thing we really wanted to talk about on this show was to get your take on what I've been discussing in some of my videos of late, which have become known as the God videos. Got to call them something, right? Mm-hmm. This is me questioning theology, questioning the true nature of this place, what we are, why we're here, and what the creator is, the true nature of the creator and his or its motives. So I'm not an atheist. I did go through a period in my life where I was, but quite clearly there is some kind of creative generative force, because here we are. Something created this, right? But I've got questions about its nature and whether we can assume that it's benevolent and wants the best for us, which is what we prefer to assume. But I think you've probably seen a couple of my videos, and I'm really just asking questions. I'm not claiming to have any of the answers, but I do have some big questions. So would you care to weigh in on that? I don't know if there's anywhere you'd particularly like to start.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with saying where I am. I was an atheist for 40 years. So from the age of 13, I sort of did a bit of research on all the different religions, and concluded they were control systems, and I didn't want anything to do with them. So I've never had any exposure to any religions other than that. I never went to church or Sunday school, nothing at all. In this journey that I've been over the last 20 years, finding the truth, it led me to the Creator. And several years back, I decided to read the Old Testament, read the Bible, for the first time ever. I read the whole thing through 3 times and realized a few things. And the first thing I realized was that the New Testament doesn't fit. The New Testament is a completely different story. And, in order to believe it, you have to essentially dump the whole of the Old Testament. But my intuition was that the Old Testament was.
It's like I'm going to be coming in and chatting over some of this sometimes as well, guys. I'm actually just working on the boat as well today, as it is raining where I am. Paul says we've just been popped into the cable full of predators. Oh my god, brilliant! That's brilliant. Yeah, Elon is a psychopath. Yes, he is. I couldn't hear the music. I need to get some headphones. I've got headphones. I don't like using them. Maybe I'll plug my headphones in. Anyway, no, but what else was I going to say? I was going to say something else. I'm making some food as well. I can't remember what I've gone out of my head now. Oh yeah, this as with that one. So yeah, I've got a photo. I want to pop in. It's like this photo. This photo is very relevant. It's a very interesting photo. It's obviously AI, or it's not real, but it's like this Lucifer, and this light bearer of the light. What is light? Light is energy, electricity. Some diesel heater out. Yeah, but it's like Lucifer. This. It's like when myself and Mark. Music's too loud. Yeah, that's fair. It's like when I first tried to do an episode with Mark Pajerski, and I sent him the link for the show, and my computer crashed. My computer just simply crashed, and it took about 3 hours for it to restart. Had to rebuild itself. Never had that done before in my life. Never had my computer crash like that. Not where it's fully gone, like weird. And it's like this energy, this metaphysical, electric, negative electric energy, like this photo depicts. Like, it's really interesting. I've got one more photo also. Where is it? Yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, big shout out to Dustin Broadbury. That was from him. But yeah, it's very true. Looks like you've had a bit too much to think. Like the Lords just passed an island. They're crazy, man. They're full on crazy. And like religions, like this photo. And you know, one of the biggest religions in the world is Christianity. The biggest religion? I'm not sure. Maybe not the biggest. I think it's the Chinese one. I think it's the biggest one in the world. But like this picture, you know, this picture is the Paul VI Mason Hall at the Vatican. I think I'm going to show the name of the hall, and it's apart from an artist. It's apparently Jesus coming from an apocalypse, from the apocalypse, from like a nuclear blast or something, and it's twisted. But this is one of the biggest religions in the world, and people still pray to that God and give them their energy, give them their lush, etc. And it's just weird, man. It's like, where are we in the world? Because the religions are all very similar. Like, I even think, like, what was it AI that actually, do we live in some sort of simulation, or has our world been taken over, hijacked, and they've overlaid a simulation on top of our world? It's very deep. Very deep. It's interesting.
It was real and right, and the New Testament just did not fit. So part of your struggle, as I saw it, listening to you, is that the tenets of Christianity and you know, what's said in the New Testament, you know, are just don't make sense. They just simply don't make sense.
Yeah, I would agree.
Don't fit what we see around us. I decided on, as a result of you know, reading it through 3 times, to research the Old Testament, not just you know, read it over and over and over again, but you know, try and follow where the people in the Old Testament went after the book ends, and you know, what the story is. Look at the other books that were taken out, and why were they taken out? Who took them out? Also, the motivations of the people behind these the New Testament and behind the story. Also look at the language it was written in, because that gives you a big clue to how this how the deception behind religion works. So that's it. I started researching it, and as a result, I found a story that you can understand. It's easily understandable, and it's a story that hasn't finished yet. We're still in the well, not the midst, but at the end of that story. First of all, you've got to dump everything that you've learned in Christianity, because if you try and view it through that lens, you won't ever get the story. So essentially, this place was created. It wasn't, our civilization now wasn't the first one. The book actually tells you that there were previous civilizations, but the Most High just wiped it clean because it got so wicked that he literally wiped it clean and started again. And the Old Testament is only concerned with the last 7,000 years of Earth's history. So I think we're up to the 6,000 year mark now. What basically the story is that the Most High created Adam as the new governor of Earth. As I said, there were previous civilizations, and that civilization apparently was ruled by an angel. Right? So there was an angel that was a governor of Earth. And when the Most High created Adam as the new governor, right, the Most High told the angels to worship Adam as they would worship him. And
guys, there is some video. This video does change to video soon. Just so I don't like to play like no video on my channel. So this video does change to pictures soon, stuff like that. So yeah, just sit back, enjoy, kick back. It's EKoM Sunday. It's EKoM Monday. How we doing? Sixes, Rise and Shine. Good to see you, mate. Yeah, Dave's great. Rise and Shine. I've just gotten into Dave Murphy's work on his chat. The link to Dave's channel is in the description for this video also. His stuff's really good, man. Really, really good. Really good. Really respect Dave. I have emailed him. I've asked him on the show. But yeah, I'm trying to see the music volume. Yeah, he's really good, Dave. So we're going to continue with this. The title to this episode is the Most High a Psychopath?
Previous governor, he didn't want to. He said, I was here first. I'm more powerful than this mud man you've created. I'm not gonna worship him. And convinced a few other angels to follow him. So the first attack on Adam, right? Adam was meant to be immortal. That's in one of the books that was taken out. So he was meant to be the immortal governor of Earth. So the first attack was what we call the story of the apple in the garden, which wasn't about eating apples at all. It was an angel called Gadriel, or Gad, who had sex with Eve, because Adam and Eve weren't meant to have sex. They were going to be the immortal governors. So he had sex with Eve. Eve showed Adam, and with that sort of with sexual intercourse, they essentially lost their immortality. There's a release of energy when you have an orgasm, and I believe that's that was the reason they lost their immortality. So essentially, Plan B was it was going to be the offspring of Adam that was going to be the governors of Earth. So the second attack was in Genesis 6:4, where the angels came down, 200 of them, and started having sex with women and produced their own bloodline, which virtually corrupted virtually everybody on Earth. So that the Earth again turned.
I just want to interject here, because this is what I I've also titled the same theory. Something changed the bloodline, and I've learned some stuff from Dave, but I didn't know about Dave's work when I suggested my theory. I came across that myself through looking at other people's work. But this return of the Nephilim, this different bloodline, it's something in it, man. There is, and Dave says the same thing. Even like all these refugees at the moment being distributed, mainly the white ones, mainly Ukrainians. He was saying like maybe the Ukrainian bloodline has actually got maybe that's a Nephilim bloodline. It's very, very deep, and like these photos of resets, like the orphan trains. What type was their bloodline? Like we talk about NPCs, like we talk about, do we live in a world full of NPCs? And maybe we do. And like these former bloodlines from a long, long time ago, they're grown up now, and these people that don't have souls, these people that think differently to us, maybe the movie Free Guy is like what we live in, where we're these characters, we're the characters, and everyone else is NPCs. It's nuts. It's crazy. But we're going to be talking about loads of stuff today. We're getting really deep into what we live in and why and who is the god of this realm.
Utterly wicked, and the Most High had to basically wipe it clean. There was only one man, as we all know, the one man who wasn't corrupted, and that was Noah. And it turns out that Noah's wife was corrupted. Turns out she was from the line of Cain. So Noah's children were somewhat corrupted. And a week before the flood, Noah had to find wives for his 3 sons. So the only women that were available were corrupted ones. So the Nephilim DNA got the other side of the flood through the DNA of Noah's children. So post-flood, what was happening was the Most High was sifting the bloodlines, like trying to get back to the original blueprint of Adam. So, that's why there was such a emphasis on who begat who.
Well, yeah, bloodlines have always been important and still are in terms of those that get elevated to prominent statuses. But how can we know that Adam and Noah were real characters, historical characters, rather than metaphors, like composite metaphors for humanity generally? How can we know they were real?
Well, here's one thing. Noah's Ark was found in 1960, I believe. So there was a Turkish army captain. He came across a boat-shaped object, a formation in the ground.
Mount Ararat, right?
Foothills of Mount Ararat, right? And the Americans sent an archaeological team, and they immediately debunked it. They said it's a natural formation. Okay. But there was a guy called Ron Wyatt who was interested in the story, and he went over himself, and he took metal detectors, ground penetrating radar, and a few other toys, and went to look for it. There's a bit of a synchronicity involved, right? That shows that he was led to go and see it, but he managed to get to the site and found that with the metal detectors, he found lines of metal rivets that were describing the superstructure of a boat. Now, this is 70 miles away from the nearest body of water. Okay. He wanted to excavate to actually, uncover this boat. And the Turkish government refused. So they were sort of humming and ahhing, and they wouldn't let him excavate. And at that very moment, there was an earthquake at that very spot that did the excavation for him. So that earthquake uncovered all these formations that were petrified wood that showed the entire
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Superstructure of a boat, which is exactly the measurements that were given to Noah in Genesis. the only thing that was wrong with the location of the boat was that it was in the foothills, and the book tells you that it came to rest in the mountains. So they actually went up to the mountains, and that's where they found the actual keel of the ark still embedded in the mountainside. And the final key to the story is that Ararat is volcanic. So at some point in the 4,000 years or so since the ark landed there, Ararat erupted and covered the ark in lava, and it covered it so quickly that the wood wasn't allowed to burn. So essentially, the weight of the lava and the weight of the ark snapped it off its keel, and it went down.
Yeah, Paul mentioned in the chat about there's more than one boat, and I would agree with that. I don't think there was just one boat either. The one in Rome. I remember your video actually. It's very interesting. Yeah, good. So, hope everyone's having a good Monday. Why does it feel like Sunday today? Saturday didn't feel like Saturday. Sunday passed. Now we have crap weather on a Monday. Lava doesn't burn like people think. Yeah, lava, yeah. It's interesting. Right, we continue.
On the mountainside, in the lava flow.
Paul also said that Noah's last name was Janus. I didn't know that, Paul, but that's interesting. Yeah.
And you can, if you go on Google Earth and look at that very spot, you'll see the lava flow, which is darker than the surrounding countryside. So literally, that's the ark. So it tells you that actually happened.
So you feel the New Testament is largely propaganda, like political propaganda that was tacked on to the Old Testament, whereas you're more inclined to think the Old Testament is the real deal. But as you've said, there have been books taken out and it's been translated and passed around who knows how many times. So how can we be sure that it's still accurate and there's still validity to it?
Well, here's the wonderful thing about the language that the Hebrew scriptures, not the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures were written in. It's a pictorial language. And it's an amazing language, and I've done a whole video about it called The Language of Creation. It's a pictographic language that creates word pictures. So every letter is a word picture. Every word is a word picture. Every sentence is a word picture. Every book is a word picture. So yes, you can try and translate it and try and move the meaning around, but the word picture remains the same. You can't hide it. And if you really want to get a real sense of what the book is saying, whenever you find a verse that doesn't seem to make sense in the Old Testament, right, find lots of different versions, and I would say old versions, old translations, not the new ones, because the new ones are just there to use the modern word magic to move the story away. If you go back to the old translations, what you find is for a particular word, you'll get one translator that will translate it one way, another translator will translate it another.
I'm in a good mood today, eating chocolate. Hope everyone's having a good bank holiday. Paul also says, I want to keep this on record, everything on record, almost 50 watching, great numbers. What was I going to say again? MK, welcome. Sojourn, also welcome. Yeah, Paul said that Noah was the first shipbuilder. Could be true. It's like all these ancient stories, all these bedtime stories, they were there to program us. Like Moby Dick was there to take up all of your imagination space in your brain, so you wouldn't really think about or imagine sea monsters, the stuff they try and hide. All the stories have a reason behind them. I just find it really interesting. This inverted realm that we live in.
Because every Hebrew word has 8 different meanings. And what you do in English is when you see a word with several different meanings, you choose the one you like. You choose the one that you think fits. But in Paleo Hebrew, you take all the words together and see what, you know, it feels like to you. You know, the whole combination of the set of meanings.
This is where
So,
in your live talks you give the example of the films, you know,
yes.
the film that you can make from the pictures offered.
Yeah. And, you know, I was seeing that is, you know, the original language of mankind still trying to push its way through our subconscious. Yeah, that's the way we think, through pictures, not words. So, yeah, by grabbing all these different meanings from different translators, you can actually look at all those meanings they present to you and get the real sense of what's really being said there. And when you do that, you realize, there is no confusion here. It makes sense now. So that's how you know.
Yeah, some people feel that with the Old and New Testaments, we're getting an insight into two gods. And many feel that with the Old Testament, it's actually Satan.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
And that you get the real God presenting himself in the New Testament. And, you know, this goes into the idea that God and Satan can be the same thing, getting into duality. But if we assume that the God of the Old Testament is the Most High and the original creator, it doesn't really feel like great news for humanity, because this God is psychopathic, jealous, angry, murderous, lustful, you know, desires the blood of infants, genocides entire groups. You know, if this is the God we have, then it doesn't fill me full of confidence.
Well, it depends on who you think is humanity. Because
on what, sorry?
It depends on who you think of as humanity.
Well,
because you have man here and you have mankind here.
I'm talking about the men, women, and children of the world, basically.
Right, but I'm saying to you, you don't just have the race of man here. You have the race of man and mankind. Right, something like man, but not man. Right, that was a story of the fallen angels having sex with women and creating their own bloodline that isn't quite human, and they're still here today.
This is what I talk about, and I'm just going to interject here because honestly, I didn't know about Dave's work at all, and it's funny how I came up with the same theory. My sources were Steve Quayle, some other people like that as well, pretty much. But you put everything together, and yeah, it's nuts, and everybody just goes around their business, doing what they do and thinking everything is normal, and they're actually the ones that are crazy. They're living a life where they know nothing. They know nothing about spiritual evolution, like what we develop as spirituality, what we should have. We should have way more spiritual development than we do. And it's like humans are at this. Are we at the end of Kali Yuga? Answers for a lot. So yeah. But this.
Now, have you seen the film Aliens?
Yeah, the Nephilim, and it's like we came up with the same theories, and it's funny. It's funny that, isn't it? We both have a video called Return of the Nephilim.
Yes.
So, imagine that you come across a village and it is full of those aliens, and you find a cave and there's all those eggs that are just sitting there waiting for people. Yeah, right. Would you hesitate about killing every alien, every male and female alien, and every egg? Would you worry about that?
If you felt they were a threat to you and they were going to do you harm, then
well, you've seen the film. Are they a threat?
In the film, they are, yeah.
Right. So what happened was there was an alien invasion thousands of years ago, right, by this invasive species called the Nephilim, right? And most of them, or some of them, didn't look even human. And there's, in the Old Testament, it tells you that some of them were called the terrors. They barely looked human, right? But they were bloodthirsty, man-eating, and utterly wicked. Right? And the Most High said, when he, you'll find that most of the time you talk about going in and destroying everybody. Right? He's talking about the Canaanites, right? So let me step back and tell you who the Canaanites were.
The hour is later than you think. Sauron's forces are already moving.
Okay, so I mentioned that Noah's wife, right, was corrupted. Right? If you do a bit of digging, you find that
I didn't actually know this until I watched Dave's stuff, which is interesting because it's like when they say the Adam and Eve story, Adam and Eve and the serpent seed, and also the story of Cain and Abel, the Canaanites, this bloodline, and there's a difference between Cain and Abel. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but Cain was bad, Abel was good. I think it was Abel's father was Adam, and Cain's father was Satan, pretty much. I think it was Satan with Eve that brought Cain, I think. Anyway, but it's interesting, this bloodline thing, and I just lost my
Noah's wife was somebody called
the Noah thing. Sorry, Noah's wife. I didn't know that. And Dave's very, very well read, I must admit. Welcome, Cass, to see you also. Good to see you. Red Bull Vodka, Sail Away. MKO, welcome also. I haven't mentioned it, Gary as well. Gary SE7, welcome.
Naama, right? And she was of the line of Cain. She wasn't completely wicked, but she still had the bloodline of the line of Cain. And Cain came out of the union of Gad and Eve, right? So he was like the forerunner of the Nephilim. So she was corrupted, and Noah's sons were corrupted as well, right? Because of that. Now there's a story early on in Genesis where just after the flood, Noah gets drunk, and his son Ham goes in and apparently sees him naked, and then there's a curse, right? Well, when you examine that, you'll find that this phrase to uncover your father's nakedness, it actually means to sleep with the father's wife. Okay, you'll find that echoed in Leviticus. Okay, so what happened was that Ham went and slept with his mother Naama. Now again, Naama was of the line of Cain, who were sort of performing all wicked deeds anyway. So she wasn't innocent in that, I don't think. So Ham wasn't cursed because of that. It was Canaan, his son, who was the offspring of Naama and Ham. Okay, because the Old Testament goes to great lengths to say, right, and Canaan, who was the son of Ham, right, and not the son of Noah, because it was with Noah's wife, right? So here's the thing: it represents a concentration of Nephilim DNA, because Ham was already, compromised. Naama was compromised.
Do you know what it's like, right?
And
it's like the video on screen is a video I've got of Noah. I've been reorganizing my computer, so I've been looking at all my old clips. But point I'm making, right, is more along the lines of this story about Noah and this new movie that Russell Crowe's in here. The story is the Watchers, the fallen angels, are these stone beings, and it's like all the giants, think about the biogeology. It's like all the giants are petrified now, and it's like they're telling us like these angels or these fallen ones that were helping Noah in the movie are all petrified now. It's really interesting. It's nuts.
And literally this direct incest right, was concentrated this Nephilim DNA such that all the post-flood Nephilim were Canaanites, children of Canaan, right? So again, all this destruction, said to kill all these, everyone out of a village. It was the Canaanites who were totally corrupted. And it seems like, if you look in the book of Jasher, the Canaanites were actively promoting, the Nephilim traits in their society, because they in again the book of Jasher, it tells you that when Jacob's children went against the seven or nine Canaanite nations, each one of those nations had a whole set of what they called mighty men or giants that they were used to try and fight the Israelites. So it looks like they were actively trying to create these mighty men, right, and promote this Nephilim DNA.
So you're saying,
yeah.
You're saying that when God or the Most High is genociding all these groups, it's not people as we understand it, it's Canaanites. Why is this not made clearer then in the Old Testament? If this is a book that's been sent to guide us and give us wisdom and knowledge, why is it so difficult to intuit this? Because you have to really decode what it's saying to get to this kind of information, because what's implied on the surface.
The video I've got overlaid is a story of who were the Canaanites. I'll run this VT. It's just a story about who were the Canaanites.
Is that this god is a psychopath and he enjoys murdering people and demanding the sacrifice of firstborn infants and this kind of thing. That's what you take away from it when you read it on the surface. So why was it not made clearer and more direct if it was intended to enrich mankind's knowledge?
Because you discount the active influence of the Nephilim bloodlines. So the Nephilim bloodlines, well, they were, and this is where the actual battle comes in, right? Remember I said that the Most High post-flood was sifting the bloodlines so that he could get back to the original bloodline of Adam, right? So what happened was that, he chose a very particular line of people, and he was sort of nudging the people in that bloodline to marry certain people. So it went through a set of chosen ones. So Abraham was a chosen one, and he was told to marry his half sister, again to keep the bloodline, clean as such. And then I think before Sarah, his wife, half sister, before she conceived, Sarah gave an Egyptian handmaid for him to have a child with, but he wasn't chosen because he wasn't the right bloodline. So Isaac was the chosen one because he was the bloodline of Abraham and Sarah. And when it came down to his children, something new happened. So the firstborn, all the fallen angel DNA was concentrated in the firstborn, Esau. And in Jacob, there was none of the fallen angel DNA. So now Jacob's line was now considered clean. It was back to the original bloodline of Adam. Okay, so that set this rivalry. It's more than a rivalry, it's a hatred between the representatives of the fallen angels and the children of the Most High. And that's the battle that's been going on ever since that time. Now, those Edomites,
the groups of races and civilizations going through the ages. So I'll run this, and I'll run this while we've got over 60 people watching. How good's that? 60 people watching. Welcome all. Do give the show a like and a sub if you've not subbed as well. That'd be great. Thank you very much. It's Bank Holiday Monday. Shit weather. That's why there's lots of people watching. Tells the story, doesn't it?
They're called. They became the Greeks and the Romans. And that's why certain books were taken out, because the book of Jasher, for instance, tells you that that they became the Greeks. And then, I'm sorry, the Romans. It tells you they became Romans. Some of the books of the Apocrypha, especially the rest of Esther, tells you that they became Greeks as well. So it was, these Edomites, the enemies of the Israelites, who decided what books were to be taken out and what verses were to be taken out, and what to add into it, which is the New Testament. Now, if you try and, as I said to you earlier, if you try and look at the story through the lens of the New Testament, you won't get it. And they I don't know if this was an accident or something, but they left in Genesis 6:4, that one line that says that the Nephilim, right? There were Nephilim on the earth, and they came about through the union of angels and human women. Right?
It's like all the doorways. It's like all the doorways around the world, like cathedrals, with these huge drawings. I saw one, Paul. Oh no, maybe it wasn't Paul. Someone on Twitter. This doorway, it's like 8 times the height of this girl standing at the doorway. All these big doorways. It's because there used to be giants around, and I don't think it was that long ago. I don't think it was 2,000 years ago. I think they've added 500 years somewhere, 400 or 500 years. It wasn't that long ago. It's crazy. Yeah. Who wrote the Bible?
I can only imagine that they missed that one, and if they'd left that out, we wouldn't have known about it. But they also took out the Book of Enoch, which the Book of Enoch gives you, total detail about that event. Where you've got one line in the Old Testament, you've got books and books of what happened, with these fallen angels. Right? So,
I mean, God just seems bipolar, to be honest, between the Old and New Testament. He's got a completely different personality.
The Most High isn't in the New Testament. He's not in there at all. He never speaks in the New Testament.
So what about the figure of Jesus? Are you saying that Jesus was a historical figure, or do you think that's astrotheology, or what's your view on Jesus?
He was made up. Right? When you research it, you'll find things like the Codex Sinaiticus. The Codex Sinaiticus is the first version of the New Testament, right? And there's whole loads of stuff that's missed out, and there's no allusion to this character being the son of the Most High or ascending into heaven afterwards. Yeah, there's nothing of that. So it was added in later, right? The New Testament was a fraudulent work, right, designed to do certain things. Right now, if you've got to remember that the whole of the Old Testament is about and for the Israelites, nobody else, just the Israelites. Okay, so the New Testament is about keeping the Israelites under control, so they could be exterminated. So,
I thought I pissed off Christians, Dave.
No, you have no idea. You have no idea. The whole of the Inquisitions is about trying to convert the Israelites to JC. That's what that was all for. You were told about it was pagans. No, it was the Israelites. That's who they were targeting. And then when they couldn't do it, they actually ended up taking all the children and raising them as Christians, so they didn't know any better. So yes, it's we've been in a war. There's been a war raging for thousands of years, and most people don't know it's been happening.
So where does that leave us now? I mean, what relevance does this have for us today? Where are we?
The relevance
now.
The relevance is that right now we're in a time called the confusion of face. So people hearing this will hear race. They'll go, oh, it's racism. I'm talking about black people and white people not being whatever. You can't look at somebody and know who they are, because one of the weapons of war of this bloodline is rape. Right? It's literally they'll infiltrate a population, and this is how they wage war. They will infiltrate a population, a few at a time, and eventually take positions of power. And once they've got enough power, they will kill all the men, rape all the women, and rename themselves as the original population, and then change history so you don't know about the original population. So that process is still happening today, right? So 300 years ago, an Australian was a very black man. Now an Australian is a white European, right? Same with America. America was a copper colored man, and now he's a white European. And so that's the people were called, this bloodline, they were called the name stealers. that was what they were known as. Yeah. And what they would do is if a traveler trying to go to China to trade would go through their lands, they would invite this stranger in and give them a nice meal and sit down, give them lots of drink and have a nice time with them, right? Find out everything they can find out about them, and then kill them, and then go to make the deal themselves, right? So they were known as imposters and name stealers, and that's who this bloodline are today. So you've got a lot of people walking around, especially in the UK, who look white, but they're actually black people.
Francis had a son called Isaac. Isaac had a son called Enoch. Enoch had a son called Edward. Edward had a son called Norman, and Norman had a son called Cedric, and that's me. And it's as direct as that. That's my family tree on my father's side, going back 250 years.
Historians sometimes say that there's a mystery about the disappearance of the black Georgian population that we know numbered thousands. But really the answer to that mystery is you.
Yes, we're going around in disguise, in camouflage, walking about the place, and many people don't know. But I'm glad that I know. I'm proud of that, because they're mine, and because it's my history, and I feel sorry for people who don't know.
The whole of the Irish population, for instance, they were originally black people. They were the Israelites. Ireland, in Paleo-Hebrew means land of the Hebrews. Yeah. Britain or Britannia means land of the covenant. So a British man, again, that's another Paleo-Hebrew word, two words, Briat and Aish, which means covenant man, a covenant between Abraham and the Most High. So the Irish were black people, and when Oliver Cromwell took over, his job was to exterminate the Irish. So he literally went in and killed as many Irishmen as he could, and those he didn't kill, they transported to their new colonies in the Caribbean. Now, he essentially did his job, because Ireland's population went down by 40%. Essentially, all the men gone. So how does a population of black women, continue? Well, what happened was Oliver Cromwell couldn't pay his men, his soldiers. So he gave his soldiers lands in Ireland, and those lands came with titles. And so the new landowners would rape the women. The darker skinned offspring would get transported, the lighter skinned ones got to stay. You do that for 300 years, and you end up with this white population of German descendants, right? Who, as it happens, didn't achieve white status until 1940. And even when they achieved white status in Britain, the Irish still had the stigma, and it's called the one drop rule. 1 drop of Negro blood makes you a Negro. They still had the stigma of having that 1 drop of Negro blood. because when my parents came over from the Caribbean, they saw signs that said, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, because the Irish still had the stigma. I hope that makes sense.
Breeding out genetics over several generations by design.
Yes, it only takes 3 generations to get rid of the colour. And you can watch a film called Rabbit Proof Fence, where they literally lay it out, with respect to Australia, as it happens, but they lay out the process.
Notice, if you will, the half-caste child, and there are ever-increasing numbers of them. Now, what is to happen to them? Are we to allow the creation of an unwanted third race? Should the coloureds be encouraged to go back to the black? Or should they be advanced to white status and be absorbed in the white population? Now, time and again, I am asked by some white man, if I marry this coloured person, will our children be black? And as Chief Protector of Aborigines, it is my responsibility to accept or reject those marriages. Here is the answer. 3 generations. Half-blood grandmother, quadroon daughter, octoroon grandson. Now, as you can see, in the 3rd generation, or 3rd cross, no trace of native origin is apparent. The continuing infiltration of white blood finally stamps out the black.
Speaking of turning things white, I just want to interject because I've got a water distiller, right? A bit off topic, but speaking of turning things white, the power of vinegar. Mine was really disgusting, right? I filled it with vinegar, and my God, added a tiny bit of bicarb, and the whole thing is like brand new. Power of vinegar. I wonder if Cromwell used to rub a bit on the old skin of the old folk in Britain. It's wild, isn't it? This theory, it's really wild.
Colour. The Aboriginal has simply been bred out.
Yeah, sorry, you claimed that British royals in the past were black.
Yes, they were. In fact, Charles II was essentially the last black king. So it's quite funny that now we've got Charles III. But Charles II was the last black king of this country. He's memorialised because his nickname was the Black Boy, because he was so dark as a child. They called him the...
MK, check this out. Funny you mentioned that. Castor oil. We can't focus on it. That's organic castor oil. Yeah, it's very underrated.
Black Boy. And that's why you've got the Black Boy Inn and Black Boy Lane and all that, these places named after him, in honour of King Charles II.
Did he have sausage fingers as well?
Sausage fingers. So I just want to interject one more time. What castor oil is really good for as well. Everybody should be doing this, because even if you're a healthy person, your liver will need some detoxing. Your liver, you always need to look after your liver, right? Get some cotton gauze or rag or cotton, something. Put some castor oil on it. Put some plastic backing on it, and then tape it above your liver. Put a little hot water bottle on it. That's really good for your liver. The castor oil gets into your liver and helps break down all the fats that are hard to break down, which causes toxification of the liver. Interesting little fact. Back to the show. Sausage fingers.
No, he was apparently a very tall, handsome, dashing figure as well.
Not like this one.
Apparently I'm totally unlike this one, because what you've got on the throne...
I haven't got my sunglasses on today.
now is a Germanic bloodline. So they're not the real bloodline. They're Germans who usurped the throne. Yeah. And that's why they took the name Windsor, so they wouldn't be...
Right, this bloodline, I mean, I talk about it. How can people support the royals? Do a little bit, the tiniest bit of research into the royal family. Why did they change their name in 1915, 1916 from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha to the House of Windsor? Why did they do that? Because there was an uprising that we're not told about. There was an uprising that the British public were not happy with these Germans our royals were Germans. And then you've got wars starting with the same country like years later. It's psychopathy to actually believe history now, because so much of it is fucking bullshit. Where's Arnold? Where's Arnold?
Come on, don't bullshit me. Bullshit. 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 You said it's all bullshit.
They wouldn't be seen as Germans anymore.
Yeah.
So they're the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha-Battenberg family.
Yeah.
So no, they married into that bloodline, married into the real royalty, but they're not actually the bloodline.
Oh, yeah. Kaiser Charlie Gotha will be sitting there in Buckingham Palace. Wunderbar! Wunderbar! Get Klaus round for a coffee and a schnitzel. Wunderbar! The German man.
So with these videos I've been doing recently, there's a couple of big questions, and I think I'm going to ask these of every guest that comes on for a conversation of this nature to get their take on it, because these are questions that I'm grappling with, and they're very, very big. The first one is why nature is so brutal. Thinking about the animal kingdom, the food chain, the fact that creatures need to murder other creatures in the billions every single day just to get food to survive. It's horrific, it's brutal, it's a bloodbath. Why would any loving, benevolent creator want a situation with that much pain and suffering and fear and death?
Well, do you know that within your body there are cells that consume other cells? There's loads of them. There's millions and billions of cells get consumed by other cells every single day. Right? Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't.
Oh well, there are. There's a whole ecosystem, right, operating in your body where where certain cells are produced and they're overproduced, then other cells appear to take those numbers down, right, so that your body stays in equilibrium. Well, the same thing is happening here. The animals out here aren't just there for show. Their job is to keep this world running and ticking over perfectly. That's their job. Okay? The lion
it can't be like this. It is this way, man. I'm sorry I exposed you to it, but it is. It's ugly, but it's necessary. And I know what you're going through. I know what you're feeling. You're scared. I'm not scared. Sure, you're terrified. Everybody goes through that the first time. I went through it. The sooner you can match what's in your head with what's going on in the real world, the better you're going to feel. And when all this is behind you, there's going to be a whole other world that opens up for you. I walk a higher path, son. I can give you the keys to all the doors.
Antelopes, because it likes antelope meat. Obviously it probably does, but it's not doing it because it likes antelope meat. It's because the antelope are there doing a job. They're there keeping the savannah, nice and mowed and taken care of. Right? If the antelope population grows too much, they start destroying the savannah. So the lion population grows to keep down the antelope population. And
the
what
lion gets a better deal out of it than the antelope.
The lions, what they do is they pick off the weak, the old, and the slow. So they keep the antelope herd at perfectly able to.
What they're discussing, right? I'll interject here about wherever we live in this circle of life. Let's say the circle of life, predators and the prey, and we're at the top at the moment because we're more intelligent than lions and sharks and crocs and stuff. But don't believe in Darwinism, pile of shit. There's only a theory, and it was never proved. Even he said on his deathbed, I'm sure he said it was false. So, but this whole theory, like animals, if we are in a simulation, it doesn't even matter about animals because it's purely simulated anyway. So there's various arguments for this. Do you eat meat? And it's very difficult. It's a very difficult one. Yeah. So, but this, like the birds. If we're in a simulation, has anybody seen the videos where the bird is stuck in the air and the bird's just stuck in the air. There's one on a telegraph pole, and the bird's just stuck. Like people cycling, and there's the person cycling moving on the path, but there's no bike. That makes you think we're in a simulation. So if we're in a simulation, the cannibalism aspect of this realm doesn't really matter, or it matters to the evil ones. Actually, now is a good time to play this clip. Segue into beautiful segue today. The show is going really slick today, I must admit. 60-ish people watching as well. But this cannibalism thing, if we're in a simulation, it doesn't matter, but the cannibalism thing to the evil fuckers, it does matter, because that's how they get their adrenochrome. Before they eat a victim, and also giants. Think about a giant chasing a human. The adrenaline that would be in your blood running from a giant. That's where I think adrenochrome, this elixir of life, came from.
At a 2019 food conference where topics included whether humans were too selfish to live sustainably, an economist suggested cannibalism could be a viable solution for climate change, and that we could start off by eating our pets. School of Economics professor Magnus Soderlund says that eating human meat from the dead might help save the human race, and that we could overcome the taboos against eating each other by simply trying it out. And today, a new company is boasting their lab-grown artisanal salami derived from human flesh. And several articles normalizing cannibalism have recently been published by the mainstream media. The Wikipedia page leads with the benefits of cannibalism, where it says, in environments where food availability is constrained, individuals can receive extra nutrition and energy if they use other con-specific individuals as an additional food source. This would in turn increase the survival rate of the cannibal and thus provide an evolutionary advantage in environments where food is scarce. This may be true when there are no other food options, but when there are, it is never favorable for any species. Cannibals are at risk of related diseases, such as Kuru disease, similar to mad cow disease, a neurological prion disease caused by cannibalistic consumption. And when there are other food options, cannibalism will always...
Do you remember that video of Angela Merkel shaking? Do you remember Angela Merkel shaking? That looked like Kuro. I think Hillary Clinton's got one as well. And there's so much evidence for this taking place in our society. The higher-ups eating people and kids as well. SRA, etc. So if the god of this realm is benevolent, why does this stuff happen? Because it's sick, you know? And it's, again, it's like, who is the god of this realm?
Be the most challenging. Studies show that cannibals tend to eat the young because it is the easiest, and they tend to hunt outside their own gene pool as a way of decreasing the competition. Cannibals are constantly at war with their own species, and animals have evolved various protections against this barbarism. Cannibalism is the ultimate expression of barbarism. The absence of civilization
like
and culture.
Welcome Vivarium Snake, welcome ZYX also. It's like Chantal Charlemagne in the chat says, all the royals are related to the Middle Eastern, I think higher ups anyway. And that is true. I've read that they're related to the bloodline from Iran, I think. I've got a clip, I played it a while ago on a show. I think it was on the Return of the King episode. But yeah, I mean, I've heard that as well. The royals are related from Iranian or Middle Eastern blood, which is again interesting. And that story of the children in children in Canada going missing, the native Indian children. The royals were involved in that as well.
Extreme cruelty. One could argue that the whole purpose of civilization is to increase the amount of food available to keep humanity from turning to cannibalism. Because who on earth wants barbarism over civility and compassion? The New York Times published a piece entitled "A Taste for Cannibalism," and they promoted it by tweeting, "Cannibalism has a time and a place. Some recent books, films, and shows suggest that the time is now." The article promotes a list of recent movies and shows about cannibalism, suggesting that perhaps we should all take the cue and give it a go, as if pop culture decides the destiny of mankind. And maybe it does. There is definitely a herd mentality that finds comfort in blind obedience and will do whatever they are told by the authoritative state emerging from the shadows. And the mainstream narrative is now normalizing cannibalism. So that's what is coming if we continue accepting their offers. It will be like the film Soylent Green, which was set in 2022, or like the film Cloud Atlas, wherein a dystopian government processes the dead into food to feed the wretched masses. Reporting for InfoWars, this
Interesting, isn't it? Cannibalism. Where does it come from? I think it comes from the Nephilim, and I think the Nephilim are still here. These evil spirits banished to this realm. Are we in a cave full of psychopaths? Yeah. Interesting. Back to the show.
Do their job, and the whole of the animal kingdom is doing that. They're doing jobs. We are the only animal that doesn't have a job, because our job is to experience this place. Right? All the animals are there keeping this terranium working perfectly.
But it's all suffering and fear and death. And again, why would a loving God want suffering, fear and death? Because
Again,
the antelope is suffering when it gets pulled apart by the lion. You know, what? How is that?
If you look at it in that way, if you're looking at it that way, then look at the cells in your body, because the same thing happens in your body. Cells, which are conscious living beings, right? They're being consumed by other cells to keep the body working.
So how is that a good thing? You know, why could a benevolent God not created a system when none of that was necessary?
It's a system of balance. It's you're looking at it from a human perspective, right? And not a system perspective. It's the only way a system can operate. A system of life can operate.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about your bid to be leader of the UK, leader of Britain. Mm-hmm. If I were God, if I were the leader of everything, I would create a system that didn't involve cells eating other cells and animals eating other animals, because I can think of better ways that it could all run.
Yes, but here's the thing, right? A moment ago, you didn't consider your cells as living beings eating other living beings. You didn't consider that because you didn't know that.
Right, because there's no.
But you knew that's what was happening. You knew there was consciousness there. Everything in your body is conscious. Everything.
All right. Well,
in fact,
I'm not conscious of that process taking place within my body. There's no evidence to me of it happening.
But it is. You know, if you get an infection, you get white blood cells that come up to start eating, right? To start consuming the products of that infection, right? Which again, everything in your body is alive. Right? As soon as it's dead, it's not part of your body anymore.
So why couldn't we have had why couldn't we have had a human body that didn't involve the replication of cells, where it just wasn't necessary?
Well, again, a moment ago, you didn't see that as a process of, something's killing something else. No, you saw it as a process of keeping a system in equilibrium. Right?
Well, I just accepted that it's taking place. I accepted that it happens.
Right.
It doesn't mean I approve of it.
I know, but a moment ago, you didn't know that's what was going on, right? The same thing is
really
happening out here in the world. It isn't.
It's really interesting, the perspectives from each of them here, I think. I'm more along the lines of Dave's perception, where I don't think you should get so hung up on meditation manifestation. We're going to be talking about manifestation a little bit later, about the power of it, or the lack of power of manifestation. But yeah, it's really interesting. I find this stuff really interesting to analyse the psychology of each person. It's good.
A case of, oh, it's all suffering and death and destruction. No, it's a process of equilibrium. Yeah, if humans disappeared off this earth, right, then what would happen is all the animals will continue doing this, this process to keep the earth and actually restoring the earth to perfect equilibrium. That's what their job is.
Well, an antelope might disagree.
An antelope doesn't have the level of consciousness to disagree.
It has a capacity to feel pain and fear, though.
Indeed. So, are your cells. Your cells, it, to the same degree, as I said, right, would in your view, have the capacity to feel because they're conscious, but they don't have the same capacity as you see it as a human. They are doing a job.
Okay, well, I can just see ways that it could all have been done differently and avoiding the suffering.
Show me one.
I don't have the blueprints to hand right now, but
but
if I was God, if I was omniscient, all-seeing, all-knowing, all-powerful, then yeah, for sure I could come up with a better way of doing things that didn't involve billions.
Why do you think
you're going to need a bigger boat?
Why do you think you could come up with a better way than the Most High can?
Well, if I were the Most High, then I'd be capable of anything, wouldn't I?
But you're saying then that you can do something better than the Most High. I think
not in my current human form. I'm saying if I were the Most High.
No, but you're saying that your mentality is somehow superior to the Most High, that you could come up with a better system.
If I were all-seeing, all-knowing, and all-powerful, yes, because anything is possible.
Which is you saying you are superior to the Most High.
No, it's not me saying that. It's saying
it is because the Most High came up with this system. The Most High came up with this system.
Well then,
right?
Okay, so we're back to.
I see from my perspective as a perfect system. Right? If we disappeared, right, the Earth would restore itself because, like a terranium, right, if you get a terranium and you leave it alone, it will thrive because all the little creatures in there will be doing their jobs. And if some of the creatures are there to keep the others in check, and it's all an interconnected web that keeps the whole system of life running.
On Tony's point, I've met Mark Devlin twice, and I'll be honest, I wasn't impressed either time, if I'm honest. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I'm not looking for a fight or anything. I'm just saying. But yeah, I mean, I don't like Mark Devlin's perception that much about thinking of it from a too low level of perception. You don't know who the creator of this realm is. You can't even imagine the intelligence of the creator. Whatever we're in, we're ants,
right? And you're just imposing your feelings of disgust or justice or whatever it is onto a perfectly working system, and also saying that you could do better.
Well, I'm not alone, judging by many of the comments I've had as well.
Okay.
We're back to one of my original theological questions, which is questioning the nature of whatever created this, call it the Most High. If it were truly benevolent and loving, I just can't see why this way of doing things would be necessary. So that's what makes me question the motives of the creator.
Life has to be structured in terms of life. Yeah, it couldn't be sort of your situation or your solution would sounds like it would be like you'd create robots out of sand that will do all the things for, instead of all the the process of animals keeping themselves in equilibrium. You'd come up with some silicon-based system.
Well, no. How about
right?
animals? How about animals eating, plants? How about animals eating prana, air, even, rather than the bodies and the flesh of other animals that just want to be left alone and survive? That's why they run away when they're hunted.
Personally, I think that we don't need to be eating animals or anything, actually, because I did the breatharian experiment that showed me that.
I wish I was in Florida. I was going to say Haram above welcome also. Matthew Jones, brother Matthew.
We don't necessarily have to actually eat, but we are a special case. Our job is to experience this place. All the other animals are here to keep this system in equilibrium, which is why there is no such thing as evolution, because in order for this system to come into being, everything else had to be in place so that the system would work. So everything had to come into place at the same time, otherwise it wouldn't have worked, because the whole of the whole of nature is interdependent on everything else.
Okay, well, yeah, I certainly don't accept evolution.
Yeah, nor do I. But the point is that everything has a job to do, and to stop them over proliferating, there has to be a control mechanism over that, and then there has to be a control mechanism over that, and so on and so on. So it's interlocking, and it will manage itself. And again, it's a perfect system, and it's a system that's replicated inside your body.
All right, so how about we move on to my second big question, which there's a phrase which came up in the comments of my previous videos, which goes, no good deed goes unpunished. And it's the observation that there seems to be a direct correlation, which is testable, between the amount of good work you try and put into the world, the amount of help you try and give to others, like you're trying to do with your campaign.
What would your inner Stephen be telling you?
As a result. And like I say, people can try this for themselves. I know a lot of people who are trying to do their best, trying to help others, trying to put good work into the world, and all they seem to reap in return for their efforts is a world of shit in various forms. So what's that all about? Because you would think that if we have a loving, benevolent God, if you try and do good work in line with God's will, or helping others, then you'd benefit from that rather than be made to suffer. What do you think about that one?
All right. Well, I don't know about your experience, but my experience. I've literally been helping people for the last 10 years now, no, 11 years now, right? And put all of my faith in the Most High to look after me.
Get to the chopper!
I've not had all lots of crap happen to me. Yeah. Now I'm actually putting together, or I have put together a new talk called Becoming Neo, and it's literally about how this reality functions and how we function in this reality. And the truth about this matter is that we have essentially ultimate power over this reality, right? Using our thoughts and our imagination and things like that, right? We have control over it. And again, no disrespect to you, Mark, right? But if you stare into evil long enough, evil stares back at you, right? And you're focused on all that dark stuff. That's your focus.
Yeah, but it's not that. It's not that I look at conspiracy stuff and dark information and stuff and that's affecting me. I'm talking about other things that are happening in my life. I'm not going to go into it because it's personal. But, it's like my personal life circumstances. And I've got many, many friends who are also suffering in similar ways. And they're basically decent people trying to do the right thing. So I don't think it's a reflection of, I'm not in a dark, energetic state because of the information I look into. It's just shit that's happening to me in my life. And
What I'm trying to say is that, we have been brainwashed, propagandized, and poisoned into not realizing our true power. And so we're like a child with a gun, right? If you're not trained, you don't know what it is and how to use it, you're going to do lots of damage, and most of that damage is going to be to yourself, right? And that's all of us. We've all been through this system that has hidden, our power, which is how to change and manipulate the world around us, so that we can have the experience that we want, right? In my talk, I show the barriers that stop you from changing the world in your favor. And there are loads of them. There's loads of barriers, like they were put there by this system, by this social engineering, right? So I would hazard a guess that most of the people who experience this don't know that they're getting in their own way. And again, no disrespect to you or anybody else, right? But this is the way the system has been structured, because I believe.
Yep, Lady Gaga's a man. I mean, you say that, she said it, he said it himself. And where's Kate? Where's Kate Middleton? They've killed her. They've killed her. Why isn't there a big uproar? There's AI videos going around of Kate now. Where's Kate? She hasn't been seen since Christmas Day. How about that? They're all men. They're all bloody men.
Sneaky little hobbitses.
That the Nephilim do not have the ability that we have. So they are harnessing our abilities, right, to have the effects that they want to have in this world.
I do get what you're saying, and I've come across this dynamic before, and I feel there's relevance to it. But it can apply when you're working on your own.
On screen, right? All the people on screen, all these celebrities, are they the Nephilim? The stars, the fallen angels, the stars. Are they the fallen angels? Are they the descendants of the fallen angels? All these stars. Seriously, that's what I think. Nephilim crave worship. They crave worship. What more worship would you get than being a celebrity? Interesting, isn't it?
Circumstances with your own free will, but when there are others involved, other people involved, you obviously can't hijack their free will and cause them to behave in certain ways. And so if other people and their behaviors are causing the problems in your world, then there's not much you can do about that, because you can only change yourself.
No, you can. You change yourself because you are drawing those people into your world. It's as simple as that.
Well, they can be your family members where you don't really have a choice.
Indeed, but you draw the circumstances into your world, right? There's no other way of putting it. This is what I'm finding out. We are very, very powerful beings, but we don't know we've got this power, right? And again, child with a gun. We're waving the thing about because we think it's a stick, and people are getting hurt because of it. Yeah, and again, mostly ourselves, right? And we're shooting ourselves in the foot and going, what happened? Why am I bleeding? because we're wielding this power without knowing it. The controllers know how to wield that power for us, and they're doing it, in very clever. They're doing it in clever ways, so that we don't know what we're doing, but they're using our power to manipulate the world around us.
Okay.
I don't know any other way to say it. It sounds rather upsetting because, you know, it definitely can't be me that's doing it, but I'm sorry, it is.
This planet is ours, witch.
Right? We all bring in, and if you see some of my videos, you know, especially the latest ones, you'll see I've gone down a progression of realizing this truth that we are literally drawing in all the things that all the negative things in our lives, right? And because we don't understand how we affect the world. An example is if you're against war, and you start campaigning, stop the war, right? Then what you're telling your subconscious, or the subconscious, what you're telling it is that you want war, you want more war, you want strife, that's because the subconscious doesn't understand English, it doesn't understand German or French, it understands focus and intent. So even though you're saying stop the war, I don't want war, you're focusing on.
This is really interesting, this conversation here about manifestation and about the power, the energy of the energy of your thought and where that goes and your intention behind it. It's very interesting, very deep conversation, which is what I've really enjoyed getting into this deep psychological stuff recently, analysing the way I think and just where your thoughts come from, you know, moods, frequencies. Very interesting. This finishes in 5 minutes, and we're going to go on to Lucifer's temple, the temple of the Nephilim, which is located in the Vatican.
War. So that's what you're going to draw into yourself.
Well, I can relate that to, you know, some nights where you might not have slept for 3 nights and you're knackered and you go to bed and you think, oh, I've got to sleep tonight. I really hope I sleep tonight. And what happens is you don't sleep that night. So it seems similar messages are being sent.
Because you're focusing on sleeplessness.
Yeah, but that to me seems like a flawed system as well. What's the use of a subconscious that doesn't comprehend what you're trying to say to it? That's just flawed. That's not working in your favour.
It's a perfect. Again, you're focused temporally. You're focused on right in here and right now, right? And what's happening right here and right now is that a invasive species, a very clever one, is now hijacking our own abilities. So at this point in time, right? No, it's not. Doesn't seem like a good system, but in actual fact, it's the perfect system. Right? And again, this is what my talk is all about, and I'm going to be focusing on how we use this system, right, to be superheroes. Right? It's a perfect system because it means that if you try and do evil, then that evil is going to come back on you. Because, you know, in order to wish evil on somebody else, you have to focus on evil. So that's what you're going to draw into yourself.
So if you're someone that wants to stop war, you're saying focus on peace. Imagine a peaceful scenario.
Focus on peace, yes. Focus on the peaceful resolution to it, you know, and then that's what you draw in. But if you say, stop the war, we don't want the war, we don't, you know, stop the fighting, you're going to get war, fighting and strife.
So if you've got a world of shit in your life, you focus on a scenario.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, it's like this, we're going to watch a thing with Eric Dubay. Actually, we've got quite a lot more stuff to watch. Might have to do this in 2 parts, because I want to go to the beach before the sun, well, we haven't seen the sun for a couple of days, but I want to go to the beach, get some fresh air. In about an hour, so I'll probably make about 3 hours, so there will be a part 2 probably. But yeah, let's just finish this clip first. Sorry, where
all that is absent and it's gone, and you know, you're thriving now. Keep those thoughts in
Right,
mind.
you would construct a scenario, right, where of what you want to have in the world, how you want your life to be, right, and then you there's a bit more to it, but then you fake it until you make it, and then one day you'll look around and go, oh, I'm here. Right, because again, the way the fourth dimension works, right, is the time aspect. Right, the time aspect is a variable. Right, it could happen instantly. It could happen, you know, a year or two down the line, but it will happen. Right, but a lot of people get disheartened because it doesn't happen instantly, because we're the instant generation here. We expect instant results with everything. You know, you turn a light on and you expect it to light up straight away. You pop a pill and expect to be cured instantly, right? So no, you literally visualize what it is that you need to have in this world, or you know, and then you start moving towards it as if it's already there, right? And you know, that's your focus. Don't worry about how it's going to happen, because again, I talk about how it does happen, right? But it will happen in one form or another. It will occur.
So that's all going into your new presentation. Are you going to be hitting the tour circuit with that in the UK?
So I think that's going to close up that little section, and they finish up talking. They just talk about tours after that. But yeah, it's interesting. This, you know, what about all the prayers said in Gaza from the people that have probably died? Actually, what about all the prayers? What about all the energy from those people? What about that? Why is there still so much war, even after so many people prayed and stuff like that? It doesn't make sense. Like, who really is the god of this realm? I wonder if Arnold knows.
How do you get the protein as quick as possible into the bloodstream? You're right. A little schnapps, directly from Austria. And you pour it in. Not too much.
Let's I don't know which clip to play next. I've got Mark Devlin talking about manifest. Yeah, maybe that's a good one to go next. This one. And yeah, quick video actually here. I want to play this actually.
In a fleeting heartbeat of time, humanity's own creation sparked a nuclear inferno, turning our vibrant Earth into a solemn testament of our own folly. The world as we knew, it was engulfed in nuclear fire, marking the end of an era.
The sole survivor clung to a vision, a blueprint for forging a new future from the ashes of the old.
As the dust settles on a world forever changed, a new generation of beings emerges. After 4 billion years of relentless evolution, Earth finally witnessed the dawn of its first cyborg society, a fusion of advanced AI entities and bionic humanoids, a landmark in the saga of life's progression. Influenced by the intellect of their creators, they faced a decisive moment to preserve humanity by fostering a new generation. Echoing an ancient tale, the first cyborg-humanoid intimacy unfolded. A modern Adam and Eve in a dance of creation, rekindling humanity's genesis.
A silent promise of life's continuation, setting the stage for a new era where technology and humanity converge, renewing life itself.
Continuing the legacy they were born from, nurturing human children as their own, they forged a unique society where humans and artificial beings coexist. A unified government and army stand vigilant, guardians against history's repetition, ensuring Earth's safety. Humans learn to live in harmony, transcending barriers of race and gender, embodying a future of peace and equality.
They're trying to make AI and robots safe and effective. That's what they're trying to do. This is a clip I found about, I don't know what I was searching for. It's called Genesis. Genesis, the gene of Isis, a new beginning. Genesis means a new beginning. The book of Genesis was the first book in the Bible. But who came up with the word Genesis? And yeah. Also, welcome That Hurt, welcome Alphabet Cat also. Somebody else you mentioned. Yeah, so we're going to go on to Dave Murphy and it's Devlin talking.
And that's all I'm doing.
It's from Mark Devlin talking about what we were talking about earlier about manifestation. And he brings up some good points. So we'll run the VT.
And that's all I'm doing. I'm asking questions. And in many ways, I feel I'm preempting.
I've sped it up a little bit just to get through it.
You know, I'm asking whether God is really a benevolent entity, or whether in fact it's seeking to do harm and you know, thrives on death and pain and suffering and all this stuff. So I kind of want to be wrong. Well, I definitely want to be wrong. And I'm looking for signs that I am wrong. And I don't want to claim that I'm suffering any more than anyone else in my life, because clearly some very good things go on in my life. And I'm very privileged in many ways, and I am grateful for that. I do express gratitude for the blessings I've got in my life. But I thought I would try this manifestation idea just recently. Again, give it another go. So in the last video, which was titled Manifestation Flaws, I got into this kind of new agey sort of idea, which is present in some of the Eastern religions, that we manifest our own experienced physical reality according to the will and the intent that we apply to it. So I thought I'll give it a go and I'll really, really try and put it to the test. So there was a situation which I really wanted to come into reality in my life, and I focused my attention on it, and I tried to imagine that it was already done. I already had it, which is what practitioners of this idea tell you must do. So I did all that, followed all the guidance, and guess what? It didn't happen. Didn't get what I wanted. It went somewhere else. And I think this can simply be explained by things will be what they will be, regardless of whether you want it or try and will it into existence or not. Some things happen, some things don't happen. Some things happen a certain way, other things happen a different way. So the whole idea is flawed. And as I say, I got into this in the last video, but I didn't go into my coffee shop analogy as deeply as I wanted to. And afterwards, I felt there were some other tenets I should have added to that metaphor. So I want to go over it again because it highlights how I feel about this whole dynamic of so-called manifestation, the idea that the universe gives us what we want, but only if we follow certain rules, only if we do it in the right way. So the analogy is you've gone into a coffee shop, and here are some points which serve to illustrate what we're talking about here. So number one, you go into a shop and you ask for a coffee. The server refuses. You ask why. She says, because you didn't ask in the right way. You ask, well, how am I supposed to ask? She says, it's not her job to tell you, and you need to figure it out for yourself. I mean, that's what people who espouse this.
He does make some really good points, Mark, in this. You're gonna enjoy this next section. Like I said, I want to get into the psychology of everything, and not just psychology, but the energy behind the world, and like when they switch the towers on, like CERN as well. CERN, there's so many aspects to our world and what they're trying to bring into our world with CERN, which not many people really talk about. It's nuts. It's nuts. Like this photo explains a lot. This photo is fascinating. There's a lot of symbolism in there. There's the serpent on the edge, the compass, the eye, the Tower of Babel on his head, the cross of the Knights Templar, the as above so below. There's so much in such a simple picture. And Confucius said this world is run by signs and symbolism, and he's so right. So yeah, we continue, but Mark does get into some really interesting aspects of this manifestation that with the coffee analogy, you're going to enjoy it, so I'll run it, okay?
Theme, tell you. You've got to ask for it in the right way. And if you don't get it. And there's no rule book to tell you how you should ask. You're just supposed to know. And if you get it wrong, well, you get it wrong. Number two, You're gasping for a coffee. You go into the shop and you ask for one. The server refuses. You ask why. She says, you wanted it too much. This is what we hear. You can't want something too much. You've got to wish for it and then let it go. Because if you fixate on it and you keep wanting it day after day, you won't get it because you wanted it too much. So presumably, if you're starving and homeless, and what you really, really want is a good meal and somewhere to lay your head for the night, some shelter, you can't think about that every day. You're supposed to just put it out there. I would really like a meal and some shelter, and then let it go and be homeless and starving for however long it takes for that wish to be fulfilled. Yeah, great. Great system. Number 3, you ask for a coffee. The server gives you a tea. You say you wanted a coffee. The server says she knows, but sometimes you get the opposite of what you want. You ask what kind of sense that makes. She says it's not her job to tell you, and you have to figure it out for yourself. How many times have people experienced this? You wish for something, you try and will it into being, as I did in my experiment of the other day, and you get the opposite of what you wanted. You wanted coffee, you got tea. So what's the fucking point of this dynamic being in place then? If indeed it is, if that dynamic can be present. Number 4, you ask for a coffee. The server takes your money. You're waiting fucking ages, but no coffee turns up. You ask when it's coming. The server wags a finger and says you have to be patient, and you'll get the coffee when it's good and ready and not a moment before. Again, this goes back to the idea of the starving guy in the street wondering when he's going to get that meal and somewhere to lay his head. And the universe is basically saying, you'll get it when it's ready. It's not your place to want it that much. Number 5, you ask for a coffee. The server spills it all over you. You get mad. The server gets all righteous and says it's not her fault for spilling it. It's your fault for getting angry. She spilt it to teach you a lesson. You ask what the lesson is. She says it's not her job to tell you, and you have to figure it out for yourself. So, metaphorically, we're stumbling around in the dark in this reality. We have no guidebook, no manual. Religious types will argue that we do in the forms of their holy books, but we don't really. We're just left to get on with it and make the best of it and try and figure it out. And there are spiritual types who will insist they've got it all worked out and they know exactly what's going on in this realm, but do they? Where is the evidence? Number 6, 1 million people all order a coffee. They all want the same thing, a goddamn coffee. Not one coffee arrives. You all call for the server to explain herself. The server is nowhere to be seen. Sound familiar? So I'm starting to transition now into some comments I've received in response to previous videos from people out there. Got some interesting observations and perspectives, and I just want to share some of these. First off, somebody wrote in with some observations based on that video, Manifestation Flaws, and just to add to what I outlined there with the coffee shop analogy, this guy wrote, we might crack manifestation jokes such as the following. The universe appears to have a serious hearing difficulty, given that we got more war just because we focused on reducing war. The universe appears not to be paying proper attention. If you get the opposite of what you asked for, then what's the point of asking? The universe is easily offended and only responds if you ask nicely. Bit of a snowflake then. The universe discriminates. It obliges some, yet denies others. The universe has a sense of humour deficit. And so, moving on to the comments I've received then, let's get into these properly now. So the first one I want to read out is from somebody who wrote, what is the incentive for doing good in this world? People will argue all day long that karma is real. So how to explain why bad things continually happen to good people? We're not given a rule book or a manual for how to navigate this realm. Religious types will argue that this is contained within the holy books, but how can we trust that these have not been tampered with over time? Spiritual gurus will claim they have all the answers, but how can we trust them when we don't have any verifiable proof or evidence? The existence of a benevolent God would never be accepted in a court case owing to verifiable evidence. A witness simply claiming that they know and have it all figured out would not fly in any kind of trial. I will be told that there are observable proofs of natural law and consequentialism in action. But are there really? If I dedicate a year to doing good deeds for others, can I expect to reap observable rewards as a result? If I parasite off others, lie to them and deceive them, I think they call them politicians, can I expect to receive punishment, observable punishment, as a result? Probably not. That's not what we see. We see those who trample all over others and narcissistically, sociopathically dominate others without a thought for their natural rights, benefiting in this world, getting ahead. I mean, people might argue that punishment lies in some other realm beyond this one, after the point of death, and we don't know. But what we do know is, from what we can see, they appear to be doing just great. Big bank balances, nice cars, nice houses, and a big duper's delight grin on their face as they piss all over other people's rights and freedoms. That's what we do see. That is observable. Okay, so the next one. The only hypothesis that does make sense is that this life is a fully immersive 3D virtual reality video game. This is a common theme, which has cropped up in a lot of this correspondence, actually. And something you mentioned in one of your videos, Manifestation, is that God seems to have no sense of humor, just like an AI machine, which I found to be an interesting observation. Yes, AI is not trained to have a sense of humor or a sense of irony or sarcasm. It's not capable of it. We are definitely existing within a glorified electronic machine, and this is not reality. In fact, to suggest our experience here is reality is preposterous. If you consider a typical war video game, you would notice that the gaming environment is disproportionately balanced towards war, evil, killing, death, and destruction, with maybe a couple of cutaway scenes of beautiful places every now and then. You would also notice that the gamer is rewarded for creating war, doing evil deeds, killing enemies, and generally causing death and destruction. Sound familiar? We notice in our experience that stupid, annoying, selfish people are rewarded for being selfish, greedy, and backstabbing, and yet good people with a conscience are punished with poverty, frustration, disappointment, and obstacles. That's because good people aren't playing the game as intended. This is only my belief, but we're here to experience evil, not to be victims of evil, but to actively participate in its genesis and propagation. And by doing this, we are rewarded with action points, bonuses, wealth, power, lust, etc. God hasn't abandoned us. It's just that we are not playing the game as intended, because we're meant to experience the full spectrum of existence, and at the moment, you and I are in the game environment to experience evil in all its guises. But for people like you and I, we have a deep empathy for others' suffering, and so we struggle in this realm. The only comfort is that it'll all be over soon, and I, for one, will be giving the finger to any so-called angelic entity who demands I return to complete a mission on Earth when I die or have an NDE. I will be walking past it and entering into the light for the after-gaming party, to which I will be giving this game a 1-star rating. By knowing this environment, would it be possible to operate in a way that is to our benefit? Surely every game has a backdoor hack that is possible to exploit. So it's interesting that somebody else picked up on this idea of this reality being like a 3D virtual reality video game. They simply wrote, everything outside of ourselves is a game and a 3D experience. No one saves us except us. Our true awakening or awareness is inwards. Live your best life. Be as authentic as you can. Help others that can't help themselves. Do not play in this game. Play your own game. Do what serves your soul. And then another one. Like yourself, I don't subscribe to the popular ideas about God that have been passed down to the population via the church, in particular the idea that God is all benign. If anything, the disparate spiritual traditions handed down to us seem to have one message in common. Pain and suffering is inescapable. Look at all the myths and allegories. People descend into Hades and re-emerge enlightened. The phoenix has to go through fire to rise anew from the ashes. Kings are cut into pieces only to be put back together by heroic deeds. Crucifixion and resurrection. People.
I see Jason's now in prison. I think I saw him streaming last night. Tartarian Truth's got an interesting channel at the moment, and I can't hear the music at the right level. To get the right level, I can't hear the music playing. But yeah, I saw that Jason's not in prison. I had something else to say, but I forgot now. Anyway, we'll keep going with this one here. It's good.
Thrown into the sea, then transform and become deities. You name it. At the same time, I don't consider myself to be nihilistic. My understanding is that the divine works through us all. It just requires some digging to experience it. When I was very ill during 2018 and 2019, it was by tapping into the God infinite energy within, especially through regular meditation and tweaking my belief system, that I was slowly able to heal and gradually experience greater inner peace. I'm still working on it. I lost a very good friend in 2022, someone who campaigned online vociferously without cessation against the lockdowns and the arms spears. Throughout it all, she was in a deep state of fear and unrelenting rage. She contracted cancer and was well aware that her inner emotional state had been a factor, as justified as she was in her opposition to what was happening. My friend would still be here had she been able to create some emotional boundaries. What I'm saying is, whatever our concept of reality and wherever we stand on the question of divinity, benign forces or not, life will never fully live up to our expectations. That said, every now and again, it does gratify us, throws us the odd bone or two, and sometimes even exceeds our assumptions. This seems to be the case, even when you're in a deep state of suffering and going through a particularly challenging period in your life. You do still seem to get the odd scrap of positivity, just enough to keep you going, just enough to keep you around and on the path that you need to be on. It can be very small, very minor. It will be just a minute or two each day, maybe, but it will just be something that you enjoy.
Welcome, Brian. Also good to see you, mate.
Offers you some kind of reassurance that it's worth keeping going. I've noticed that. Okay, the next individual to write in says, I feel life is a gift, and whilst it can be shrouded in pain and misery, and I'm sure people have lost a lot of hope recently, I don't think anyone is free of pain and misery, ever. I mean, surely it's how we subjectively see it, process it, cope, and manage our lives around the pain and trauma we experience, because for each person this will be different. It's this pain and trauma we experience in life that makes us more resilient. We learn those biggest lessons through pain and loss, and then move forward to be able to build the love for our own life and what you have in it. It sounds like such a huge, hard battle trying to figure out or fix the ways of the world, the bigger issues, and as you say, all you have witnessed is the pain when things don't change. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are, and it's down to us as individuals to find the little pieces of solace and love in our own lives while still being able to remain true to our beliefs and what we stand for. So the next one said, Hi Mark, just seen your recent video, God 4.0. I think we eventually get to this point when we've been down every rabbit hole possible. I'm now 100% convinced the people with all the wealth and all the power have knowledge of how this place truly operates. And in my 48 years on this realm, not once have I ever seen anybody use manifestation or the force to overthrow tyranny. I think this stuff could well be a trap or a distraction, false hope just to keep us suppressed. Goes back to my earlier point about how many...
Right, what we're going to do, guys, I'm going to finish with half an hour to go. Going to finish up. We've got quite a lot of people watching actually as well. Great numbers today, really great numbers today. It's all stayed up the same level as well. Awesome, I must be doing a good job, hopefully. So yeah, we're going to play another half an hour and it finishes. We're going to do part two, who is the God of this world, this Friday night, 7 o'clock, and we'll continue because I've got another 2 hours worth of material here to put forward to complete this little part of this series. It's going to be very interesting. Friday night, 7 o'clock, we will continue this presentation.
People have prayed for this world to be a better place, and it just seems to keep getting worse. So what kind of loving God would allow that? And what's the point of this process of manifestation being in place? And I argue that it's not, if that's what we get from it. But why has there been such a massive push by the elites over the past few years to gain full control? It feels like we're almost racing against them, the ones who've awoken against the psychopaths. It's like they've had prior knowledge of this mass awakening. I don't subscribe personally, myself, this is me speaking now, to this idea of a great awakening. It's obviously happening with certain individuals, but it's not happening on anywhere near as large a collective basis as it needs to make any kind of lasting difference. Just as an anecdote that I'll throw in here, we had a workman in the house the other day. It was a painter. He'd come in to do a few jobs, and I thought I'd test the waters with him because he was talking about the weather and how dreadful it was because it was pissing down with rain. And he said, yeah, that's April in Britain. And I said, yeah, it doesn't help with the chemtrails either, the spraying in the skies. And he said, yeah, exactly. Nanoparticulates of metal that comes down to the ground and gets ingested and causes dementia and Alzheimer's and all manner of brain disorders. And I was like, wow, this guy knows what time it is. And we ended up having a really good discussion about all the stuff that's going on. And he said, there's more people out there than you might think that kind of know about these things. They've studied these subjects, but they don't know what they can do about it.
What would your inner Stephen be telling you?
They feel powerless, they feel helpless, and so they do nothing because they don't know where to channel that knowledge. So it's one thing to have awareness of what's really happening, but it's another to put that to use. And if you don't put it to use, there's not really much point in having it in the first place. And I was saying to him that it's going to require large numbers of people coming together in collective unity and taking physical action against what we all face for it to make any kind of difference. And he agreed with me. But that's what we're lacking. Any kind of cohesiveness between those of us who...
My dad was a toolmaker.
My dad was a toolmaker.
He was skilled as a toolmaker, highly skilled.
And your dad, I think it's right to say, was a toolmaker?
He was a toolmaker, yeah.
Dad was a toolmaker.
My dad was a toolmaker. And he was a toolmaker. He was a skilled man. And it's hard work, it's skilled work.
My dad, he was a toolmaker.
My dad was a toolmaker.
My dad was a toolmaker.
My daddy was a toolmaker. I love that thing.
Seem to have twigged what's actually being done to us. So, just to pick up on this message, this lends itself to the idea that maybe the awakened ones deep down know change is coming and that our purpose is just to endure it until whatever shift in consciousness actually happens. It's all fucking weird, mate. One thing for sure, the awakened ones are all awake for a reason. Well, it will be what it will be. Next message. I think it's possible to manifest stuff, but not in the way everyone thinks. And Dave Murphy, talking about my recent chat with allegedly Dave, was on the right track when he said, if you focus on there not being war, all the universe hears is the word war. So again, it's a bit flawed, isn't it? We don't want any more war. Oh, what's that? War? You want war? Okay, here's some more war. Works really well. I think that in order to manifest, you have to put yourself in the state you would be in if whatever you wanted was already there. And that's virtually impossible, particularly if your life is shite. It goes back to my earlier analogy of the...
Do be sure to order some of those Mark Pacheski incense sticks. They are the bomb. Honestly, they are so good. MarkPacheski.com. They are good. Best in the world, I would say. Honestly, Palo Santo.
The homeless starving guy, imagining that he's just had a banquet and he's dressed in a nice suit and he's got a comfy bed for the night, right? Is that going to make it happen? Probably not, eh? Do you remember those old Western films where at the end it would say, no horses were hurt during shooting? Well, take it from me, no humans are hurt during shooting. This realm is the devil's playground, so to speak, and all is deception. Your suffering is an illusion, as is your joy. And we are susceptible to these illusions and delusions because we have accepted the fact of our separateness, which is what binds us to reality. When we rejoin the source, our eyes are opened and we laugh as not only human suffering, we laugh at not only human suffering, but at human existence itself. We are far more than mere humanity.
A year ago, over a year ago, called The Devil's Playground, where the guy actually who passed away, bless him, Nigel from, UK guy, but he was living in China. He actually passed away not too long ago. But I've had an episode called The Devil's Playground. This is like The Devil's Playground. It's crazy. It's crazy.
No answers as to why we separate ourselves, but the source is real and I have experienced it. Also, this doesn't mean that human suffering can or should be discounted. Suffering, while illusory, is at the same time real, a seeming paradox that can only be reconciled at the source. Humans can never hope to make sense of this realm, so don't knock yourselves out trying. Creation isn't good in a moral sense, but in a physical sense. When you arrive at the source, you realize that existence and joy, love, bliss, nirvana, etc.
I like making shows that make people think. The incense burning. I like making shows that make people think. You should be questioning the way you think. That's a sign of intelligence. Looking at the way you think, analyze yourself, audit yourself. Very interesting, powerful. Have discipline, lead by example. Simple things you can do. Breathe.
One and the same thing. Existence and love are inseparable. And when do you separate? Well, then, welcome to the devil's playground, where all is illusion and nothing is as it seems. I think that'll do for now. We'll end this on a vague thought. And again, the question arises, if we have a creator who is omniscient, all-knowing, all-powerful, capable of anything, why would this dynamic come with so many flaws and terms and conditions? Why would it not just be made available as a gift to humanity?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
God is beneficent. So the flaws that I see with it is that those into this idea of manifestation say that you have to ask for something and you have to really, really want it. You can't just ask for it. You've got to want it with all your heart and all your soul. And I've tried this,
This is the clip about manifestation, and it's interesting. Again, Mark does ask some really good questions. Yeah.
Mr. Anderson, welcome back. We missed.
People say you can write it down, you speak it 3 times, you just really put that intent out there and really mean it. And I've tried this with many things I've tried to manifest. And it seems to me that some people are able to manifest what they want, or at least they claim that they can, whereas others can't. So what's that all about then? Either it works or it doesn't. And people will say, you're asking for it wrong. You're not asking in the right way. And I see that akin to going into Costa and asking for a coffee, and they say, no, not giving it to you. And you say, well, why not? And they say, you didn't ask right. And you say, well, how am I supposed to ask? And they say, well, you've got to figure that out for yourself. When you ask for the coffee in the correct way, we'll serve you the coffee, but not before. You're not asking right. Either it works or it doesn't. Why all the terms and conditions? Why all the caveats? Why are these necessary? Then people will say, you have to cast it out there, what you want to achieve, and trust in the universe, and then just sit tight and wait for it to manifest. And you have no idea if it's going to come in 2 hours, next Tuesday, or in 20 years. So it's an imprecise science in that regard. Then people will say that you've got to ask for it in the right way in terms of the way you phrase things. So an example that came up in my chat with Dave Murphy recently is, if you're someone who doesn't like war, who wants war to stop, if you focus on wanting war to stop, apparently what the universe hears, what creation hears from the intention that you put forward, is the word war. And it goes to itself, oh, war, okay, you want more war, well, here's more war. It doesn't hear that you don't want war, it just notices that you're focusing on the scenario of war, and apparently you empower that. This is how predictive programming works. So if we take all the examples of these movies and these TV shows that depicted events of 9/11, September 11th, 2001, in the years and decades leading up to it, apparently because we were all focusing on these movies, and we were getting images of planes flying into towers and the towers exploding and all this stuff, we were helping to empower that scenario into being. Even though it's one that none of us would ever have consciously chosen. We would never have said, oh yeah, I really want planes to fly into these buildings and destroy them and lead to war and all these changes in society which enslave and control us. Nobody would have done that. So the universe has no sense of humour. So if you're having a really bad day and you're really pissed off and you go around saying, oh yeah, this is great, yeah, I'm having a really good time, yeah, bring it on, let's have some more bullshit in my life, yeah, you might as well just ruin the rest of my day now. The universe hears that and goes, oh, you want the rest of your day ruined? Okay, I'll see to it that you get even more shit in your life. It doesn't see the irony. It doesn't recognise the humour. And so my question is, if you're someone like me who has a pretty dark, twisted sense of humour, you're into cynicism, you're into sarcasm, it's part of your personality.
To get vaccinated,
why does the universe,
to wear masks, screw your freedom,
or creation or God, not recognise that and realise that you don't really mean it. It's just your way of dealing with a bad day by saying, yeah, bring him on. You don't want more of it. You're pissed off that you've...
Join the song.
It's showtime.
What would your inner Stephen be telling you?
You both got it wrong. Right is the good thing, you did the bad one. No.
It's funny at all.
Later than you think. Sauron's forces are already moving.
I would be well enjoying the show tonight as well. It's about 20 minutes left. I'll go back to the show now. Get carried away when a good song comes on here. It's like, turn up, turn up, turn up. But we continue. I have to finish episode trying to go to the beach before it gets dark.
Had it in the first place, and yet no provision is made for that. There's no sense of humour. Isn't that like AI, robots? That's what they say about these things. They can't perceive humour. They don't recognise these ways that humanity expresses itself through dark humour. Well, then there's no difference between God and an AI bot, is there? If that's the way these dynamics unfold. And you often get the opposite of what you ask for, so what's that all about? So with the war example, apparently you're not supposed to focus on, I don't want any more war. You're supposed to focus on a utopian world full of peace and love and joy, where everyone respects each other and empathy and compassion rule the day. Well then, how many prayers of that nature do you think have been offered up, particularly since 2020? How many people have been praying to whatever God they believe in, or just putting their intention out there, speaking it out loud, really, really wanting it like you're supposed to, with all your heart and soul? And even those who have believed that there's been some deadly disease out there that's ravaging humanity, their prayers would have consisted of, Dear God, please deliver us from this terrible situation. Please return us to a state where none of this is a threat and we can just get on with our lives. And then those of us that have researched the thing and we realise that it's an agenda would have been asking, maybe through meditation or these different forms of expressing our consciousness, for the evil and the tyranny to be exposed, for the lies and the deceptions that have been spun against all of us to stand fully exposed for all to see, and for the perpetrators of these crimes against humanity, literal genocide, to stand in full justice for what they've done, appropriate consequences to be dished out to them. Has that happened? If it has, I haven't noticed. As far as I'm aware, in Britain, Boris Johnson, Chris Whitty, Matt Hancock, still walking around free men, Patrick Vallance, all of them, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, Anthony Fauci, all these people walking around free men, no problem, nothing's happened to them. Meanwhile, so many good people who have been opposing the tyranny, who have been opposing the chaos and the violence and what's being done to humanity with deep care within their hearts, have suffered so many fates. They've been targeted, they've suffered problems in their personal circumstances, they've lost livelihoods, they've lost relationships, they've suffered with their mental health, with their physical health. So what's that all about? Who manifested that then? Who asked for that? And yet that's what we've got. So you often get the opposite of what you've asked for. So what's the fucking point then?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another example, which I gave in a recent interview, is we all have nights where we can't sleep. You're lying there, you've got things on your mind, you just can't get to sleep. And maybe you have 2 or 3 nights in a row like this, to the point that you're absolutely destroyed, and on the 3rd or 4th night you think, I've got to get to sleep tonight. So you're lying there, and you're thinking, oh, I really hope I can get some sleep. I really want to sleep. I just want a good night's sleep. What happens? You can't sleep. You get the opposite of what you've asked for. You get another sleepless night. And people will say, oh, you've got to be careful what you ask for. You've got to ask for it in the right way. And you've got to focus on what you want to achieve. And you've got to imagine that you've already achieved it. So to use the earlier example, if you want a world without war, you're supposed to go around thanking the universe for the fact that you now have a world without war. You're supposed to imagine that all wars have stopped and Everyone's living in peace, and you say, thank you, universe, for granting this. It's so wonderful that now we have peace and harmony and joy and love. That doesn't work either, though, does it? Because how many people have been wishing and willing this into place, and yet it never happens? The only thing that does happen is that evil and darkness and tyranny continues, and the suffering of good people and animals, living sentient beings, goes on. So the questions still remain. I'm using manifestation and all these new agey type ideas as a way of reframing these questions. What is this creative force that we have? If it wants the best for us, why do we have to go through so much suffering to achieve it? Why is it necessary to achieve these life lessons in such painful ways? And why are there terms and conditions applied to this dynamic of manifestation if it's the wonderful free gift that we've been given by the Creator? In the interest of fairness and balance, I do want to mention that this past weekend I was in Scotland, and I love being in Scotland. I feel
Right guys, we're going to finish up here because I want to go to the beach. It's going to get dark soon. And yeah, it's been an interesting show. We're going to have part 2 because I've got so much more I want to put together for this title. For who is the God of this world, with all this evil taking place in the world, etc. Something just ain't right. Music might have been a bit too low there. Yeah, something just ain't right.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
We certainly are. Right, finishing up. Thanks for all watching. Give it a like on your way out. What would your
inner Stephen be telling you?
Right, thanks for watching, guys. We're gonna finish up. We'll take off straight back from where Mark finished there as well on Friday night show. See you all 7 o'clock. Ciao for now.
We want to get into the Illuminati because we want to get invited to the coolest parties by subtly communicating hidden symbology. Soon we'll be part of a secret society.
Hollywood will open up its doors for us. We'll meet the inner circle of executives.
We'll give a guy a wristy in a warm jacuzzi, and the guy will put us in a Disney movie.
Then they'll play our music on MTV. We'll be given designer clothes for free.
And we can drive everywhere DUI because we'll be under the protection of the all-seeing eye.
And we'll never have to worry about bills again because the Rockefeller family will be our best friends.
We'll fuck a squirrel and finger a fish and triangle, triangle, eye, pyramid. You can be rich and famous too.
I love the establishment, yay! We want to get into the Illuminati and we want to hang out with Jay-Z and Beyonce.
We want to sell our souls in 1 billion records and bow before our reptilian overlords.
Then the enlightened few will bring us into the fold,
where we'll be told secrets of old,
like why the CIA killed JFK
and why on earth the moon landing was fake.
Being Illuminati will be so much fun. We'll learn the truth about Area 51.
They'll tell us where flight MH370 is and which politicians like to fuck kids.
We'll get 1 million followers on Instagram. We'll have the whole wide world in our hearts.
The Rothschilds will take us to Bohemian Grove, where it's likely that we'll both be murdered and cloned.
Let's manipulate the economy.
War is good for humanity. We'll be given the keys to unlock the Bible, and we'll become Lucifer's loyal disciples. We'll pray to Baphomet and the princes of hell.
We'll bathe in pig's blood and cut ourselves
under the blood moon, beneath Satan's radiant energy, before the Dark Lord Lucifer himself. I invoke the 4 crown princes of hell, inviting the forces of darkness to bestow their knowledge and power upon me. I, your faithful servant, promise to hide triangles in things, perform at the Grammys and tell people the earth is round. From this day forth, I'll do whatever it takes to thwart globalism, multinational corporations, the establishment, and the military-industrial complex. I love fracking, it's the best. Let's go for some pizza.
What flavor?
Kitty flavor. We're gonna get assassinated for making this video.
More like initiated.
Bishop Matt, good to see you in the chat there, mate. I thought about you the other month, mate, Bishop Matt. Good to see you. Ciao for now. Love you all. Really enjoyed tonight's show. See you all 7 o'clock. We continue. And yeah, final clip. Ciao for now. Love you all in Lakesh.
Hope. 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 It is the only thing stronger than fear.
That's all, folks.